Okay, this part of our series, we're going to actually do the roof on part of the library. We did part of the tree in the other segment, and now we're going to show you how the roof gets done. This is interesting because this is something you actually do for any type of roofing. If you look at the structure and you see there's kind of an interesting little symmetry involved. So, please, don't think you have to go out there and measure. You don't. The trick is the illusion that it makes up. Half of good art is an illusion. The trick is to be neat. Let the illusion happen. So, here we go. We're going to actually start off, and notice I am not measuring a thing. I'm simply letting my ruler help me. Ready? Here we go. 1. We'll make a nice straight line. Make sure it's nice and even. Keep that pattern going. It does help to be a little even-handed. My left hand knows exactly what my right hand is doing. I'm going to make sure this pattern is perfectly all the way down. Make sure not one is a little bit wider than the rest, because that's going to ruin the illusion. The next part of this trick is going to be where you really make a difference. If you look at a photograph, you'll see this is very accurate. Each shingle is just very dependent upon each other. It causes that illusion just perfectly. Again, I'm not measuring. I didn't take a pencil and figure out exactly the ratio of each. If you were to count these, I'm way off. It's the illusion that matters, not the numbers. Next part of the illusion. You take your pen, take your drawing, flip it on its side, and make sure that you use every other segment. Here we go. I'm making sure by looking at the actual photograph that I took myself to make sure I do that. I am. Here we go. Every other shingle. Every other one. What you're causing is an optical illusion. By no means is this perfect, but it sure looks like it. I by no means am an architect. But this effect will certainly make you think I am. If you keep this effect throughout the drawing, it'll be amazing what it'll look like, especially when I turn this right side up. Right now, you're looking at it from an angle. The reason I'm so quiet is because this is very, very difficult, and I really want to concentrate and not make a mistake. And again, I'm not counting. I'm not making sure each one's perfect. It's more of a case of just keeping it in a kind of a harmony and not breaking the mantra. If you break any procedure, if you just simply lose track of where you are, the whole thing will fall down like a pile of cards. So basically, I'm just playing along with the ride. Hopefully, it'll work. I think it's going to work. By no means is this perfectly correct. You could find so many faults with this, but it's a nice effect. It does look pretty incredible, but it's not. Next step is actually do the chimney. That's going to be fun too. Here we go. We're almost done. I think I did it. Oh, now if you look at it right side up, the roof looks pretty nice. It's not as accurate as I'd like it to be, but it looks pretty good. Let's do the chimney. The chimney is kind of interesting because it's staggered pieces of block, and it almost simulates the same effect that the building has. So I'm going to do something similar. I'm going to actually put some effect. If you notice, some of the bricking is dark, some of it's light. What I'm going to try to do is emulate that. Put a little double lines in there. Sometimes it might be actually cool at certain points not to even use a ruler because some of this is so uneven. However, on the other hand, there are some things that are just perfect, and you got to maintain that aura of perfection. I'm also going to use a little stipple in there to show that some of these bricks are dark, light, dark, light. And you'll see that it's going to be fun. Stipple is just a series of dots. We're almost there. Let's push this down like this. Okay, by stipple. Stipple is a series of dots. We're going to take one or two of these and see that some are light, some are dark. For instance, I'll take this individual brick, put a little stipple in, just a little series of dots. The ones that are not as dark, not as many pieces of stipple, just a little. The ones that are really light, a very nominal amount of stipple, just a few. And again, some are rather heavy, some are dark, so we put a lot in there. The trick is not to make either too close to each other. So we're going to find one or two to be very dark, one or two to be very light. That works the effect nicely. We'll make this one dark. I'm not looking at each one of these, making sure I'm accurate to a fault. It's the effect I'm after, not making sure each one corresponds perfectly. That'd be ridiculous. Not to mention anal. I don't think anybody's going to look at this drawing and make reference to each individual brick. That is insane. What I'm more concerned with, they'd look at the drawing and get an effect of the building. Now, we could also put a little bit of stipple in each one of those shingles, because I think they're just a little bit too perfect. So here we go. We'll put a little bit of dot structure in each one of these. What that does is create a little bit of texture. Each roof is not perfect. I don't want it to look like it's just manufactured out of Teflon. I'd rather it to look like a shingle. That's a nicer effect. Looks weather beaten, like any roof should. That also adds to the linear quality, because in addition to looking uniform, it now looks earthly. It looks like, it just looks more like a roof. Now imagine the whole roof being done like that. You have both elements of uniformity, and you have elements of weather-beaten, appearance, which really lends itself nicely. So the line I used, which was almost hypnotic, is now going to be made weather-beaten and earthen, which is what you want. Let's get back to the chimney and do some more. Each one of these bricks, even the side, has a little bit of a evenness to it. So we're going to try to do that also. And each one is different in the sense that each brick is lighter or darker. Same thing with the bottom one. Put a little bit of a character flaw in each one. Here we go. A little bit of a darkness with some of these. Some are light. Now even this upper facade has a bit of a rim to it. We have to acknowledge that. So this one, we'll do two things. We'll put a thicker line up there. And all we got to do is put just an extra added layer of ink. Same thing. Causes depth. We put a little bit of stipple in there. Makes it look weather beaten. The actual rim of the chimney, we'll put a nice even tone to it. It looks like flat, kind of a flat type of ceramic effect. So we'll do the same thing. We'll put a little stipple in that. And the whole thing is going to look very much like a cement tone, which is you want. Put a nice effect in there. The side is going to be darker. Even though it doesn't translate like that in the photograph, we're going to make it look that way. Sometimes it's up to you, the artist, to make things look like they have depth. It just translates nice. So we're going to finish this up. Some are going to be darker than others. You can see what I'm doing. Some are going to be darker than others. Let's make this one a corresponding side not as dark. This one darker, just so they're not even. Nice effect. This side is going to be the entire back side of this. We're going to make this darker. We're going to make this darker. We're going to make this darker, just to show that, let's say the sun, I'm going to make the sun a morning sun. It would not affect this because the sun would be here. It's always good to establish that type of parameter in a drawing. It adds to the exactness of the drawing. If you have everything in midday, kind of a boring drawing. It's always good to put a little bit of a breakage to show what type of day it is. It adds to the illusion. It enhances the illusion. So here I am, I'm darkening this side of the chimney. It'll add depth. We're going to do the same thing here. Just darken it, darken it, darken it like crazy. It's kind of fun when you do private homes and any type of structure for people. They really enjoy being reduced to black and white. But it really lends itself and makes for any edifice to be that much more, I don't know, enjoyable. So I love doing panoramics of houses, panoramic of any historical building. It lends a certain historical quality to it, for that matter. So we're darkening this entire part, and you can see what it'll do. Stipple, that's the only way to do it. We could go further and make each brick darker or lighter, but since it's the far side and we're pretty much showing it dark, there's no need to go too far. And I don't like using crosshatch at this point. We're showing this particular cement thing to be porous, and crosshatch almost lends itself more to a wooden effect. And this is not wood, it's cement, or whatever you want to call it, but it's not wood. It would not have the same type of feel. It would actually look inaccurate if you did that. The trick is going to be to keep this whole feel, this whole side of it, darker. Now, isn't it funny how trees, I'm doing in pen and ink the same effect, and yet they look so different because it's a whole different way of using the ink. So this chimney is really coming out rather nice. And I could put a thicker line around the whole area. I think I will, just to make it stand apart. Okay, let's do that. Let's put a nice thick line around the entire chimney. And what that'll do is really cast it away from the tree. I don't want to make it too thick. I've been accused of doing that in the past, and it's best not to make it too thick. Pen and ink is a tough situation. You make the lines too thick, you almost get to be cartoonish, and I don't want that to happen. Not with this. Looks good. The chimney really and the roof looks apart. We're going to make this line just a bit thicker. The only thing we have to do now is put a little stipple in each one of these shingles, and that'll be a nice effect. We could put a little stipple in each one of the parts of the tree, and that would really make it cast off. Nice. So we could do that. We could actually work on some of the individual segments of the building too. We could do one other thing. Even the mortar that goes between each one of these segments, we could put a little stigma, a little bit of points in there. And what happens is, instead of it being white, I've never seen cement that was bright. Cement tends to be on the gray side, So you do that. You kind of put a little bit of stipple in each one of these. Same thing on top, same thing on the bottom. You put a little bit more dark on this far side, really adds to that too. Nice. So what we could do is actually work on each one of the stipples in the shingle. We don't have to make them all uniform. Some shingles are lighter than others, some are darker. It's a nice effect. The whole trick, though, this whole thing, you have to wait till the very end to make any individual area darker. And we will. For instance, I can make the tree darker in places. If you look at a photograph I took, you could see that the tree is actually much darker. So I might have made this roof a little bit too dark preliminarily, and I think I won't. I think I'll leave it the way it is. I don't want to do that now because it's kind of boring. What we could do is actually work on the part of the roofing here. This is fun. It is boring too, but it's fun in the sense that I could show you a method that would decrease the amount of boredom involved, and that is this. We're actually going to do the segments that go here. I'm not measuring them. I wish people would get off that thinking that you have to measure everything to be perfect. The illusion is all that matters. If it looks measured, then you pulled it off. By no means do you really have to measure each one. If it looks measured, I mean, if you're out there and actually discern how many I actually put in, I'm sure I'm way off. Wouldn't it be funny to count one side and realize there's like 3 more on one side than there are on the other? Would not be a very good architectural rendering, would it? But luckily, there's not too many of you out there that will do that to me, are there? I hope. The only thing that matters is that it looks like it stands up. That's all that matters. That's one of my arguments about Impressionism and any of those isms. If a building looks like it can't stand, I don't care what effect you lend to it. If it doesn't look like it stand up, I don't like it. I will not buy it. So it doesn't have to be particularly well executed. It just has to look like it weather a storm. And perhaps that's why I love realism so much. Tend to be a little bit more realistic in the sense that buildings tend to look like they stand up. Anyway, let's we can actually begin the next part, but I think I'll hold off till next time. What we'll do instead, we'll try to finish some of the shrubbery back here. And I could show you how the grass is going to be put in. You'll really enjoy that because that's one grass at a time. What happens is the effect is what builds it, makes it look like grass. And it's like the way I draw hair. I get a lot of people angry at me for that too, but the end effect is what matters. It looks like a head of hair. And I don't think there's too many shortcuts with that. Not without looking ridiculous. That's beginning to come out pretty good. Okay, we could do this. We could actually show a little bit of this effect. I actually should do this before I ink everything, and that is to draw some of the guardrails and stuff. You don't put those in, and you don't wait, and you wait till the last minute and don't put them in. It's going to be very hard to put them in. You don't have to measure these off either. You could just pretty much wing them. Yep. And again, because this ink tends to dry real quickly, you don't have to worry about smudging. I think next time I'm actually going to show you the effect of some of these. I kind of showed you on the chimney, but we're going to actually do a facade. I don't think these are the real facade, but I think it's a real fake one, and it looks great. It really lends up to look like a Gregorian building, and it's nice. I love that effect. You can't help but drive by and look at that wall. It's gorgeous. Again, next time we'll try to put more trees in. The great thing too is when we get to the other part of the new building, you see pure bricking, and that's kind of a mantra to itself. It involves a lot of the same thing I used on the roof, but it's going to be fun. And again, most of this is just repetitive effect, and the grass is going to be fun too. I think I'll show you how to do that. That's going to really make some people think twice. I love the effect though. We got to put the American flag in. There's a lot of grass that goes in here. We have to put the actual Plainville Library sign. That's going to be fun. Again, see you all next time. Go back to the roof.